right, guys, let's start because today we have a lot of stuff to do. So today, apparently, I should be going through the project that Ricardo was just sharing as well, and kind of coding with you a little bit to see, like, to give you ideas for approaches of how would you do the requirements, how would you satisfy the requirements. So the project is on GitHub. I think you all have access to it already, and you have your index.html and product.js, where you have the products that you implement to it. And the requirements for today should be sorting, filtering, and clicking add to basket and carousel, if you can get that far. Right. So basically, the way that I imagine it, and feel free to open your own editors and just code with me, or just like look at what different files I'm moving between and stuff like that. But I'm gonna be sharing my screen, and I'm gonna be writing some code in here and showing you the websites just to see how the results look like, and kind of try to give you some ideas about how it all fits together and how to do the different things. All right.
Is that right that we need to design the whole thing, like even the mobile version, or did
I
get that wrong?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure because I don't.
Because how do you do that actually to have a mobile?
Okay, if you're asking about the project, we have to do all the front end. So no back end, but yes, the front end. And remember that for doing front end, we went over the media queries. That's what you use to set up in your CSS file.
Yeah.
I think HTML, where you put like the media queries, and then you put like if it goes beyond this size, it will render this in this CSS instead of the other one. So basically, you have your media queries saying like if it goes below 800 pixels width, then apply this CSS, and that CSS will rearrange things differently.
Yeah, so that is basically how you do like a responsive design. Looking at the Figma requirements, it doesn't seem like there is a mobile in there. So
yes, it is.
There is.
If you go to the left, there is. If you go at the index, there is. You have an index where you have.
Go to the hamburger menu in the left. There, yeah.
Ah, there you go. Okay, yeah. So you have to do it then, yeah.
Have you done it already, Ricardo?
No, all I did was the homepage for the desktop, and that's the only thing I've done. The first image in the left is the only thing I've done.
It's gonna be a lot of work, man. I don't know when I'm gonna do it.
Actually, if you think about it, I was intimidated the first time I looked at it, but if you look closely, between the first one and the second one, basically it's just the slider, and then between the other ones, you keep reusing the footer and the header, so it's just about having two more divs to reaccommodate the item. So yeah, I mean it's a lot of things to do, and once done, still going to the mobile. So yes, it's a lot of work to do, but I think like it's like how you eat an elephant, right? You need to get started.
Exactly.
Yeah, something like that.
Pero tú no vas a comer, ¿qué vas a comer?
Right. So yeah, let's just get on with it. I think there will be more sessions about like helping you with actually progressing through this, but you will have to ask Wasil for that because I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it is like just me looking at it, I can tell that it's quite a lot of work. So definitely, especially for you guys, it is quite a lot of work. So hopefully you will have enough time for it.
Thank you. Yeah. I'll write off my weekend for that.
Couple of weekends probably.
Shit.
No, you'll be fine. Right. So this is more about the functional stuff rather than the front end stuff. I'm not going to be actually creating the page in here. I'm just gonna create the functions and a couple of the functions for filtering, sorting, adding to basket and stuff like that. So yeah, let's jump into it because quite a few things. So first is color category and price range filters must update when the list of products in real time. So we will display the options, listen for click on apply filter button, get selected colors, and then filter the products and display them. So if you look at the design again, if I can find it. So we basically are doing this part in here. I don't really see any apply filter button, but we will add it anyway. Again, I will be showing you just kind of bare bones HTML and JavaScript how to do it. It will be up to you to style it later. Yeah. Right. So let's get into it. So first thing that we will need is we will probably need some kind of form. And shout if you think that you know the answers or anything like that. I'll try to make
it index.html because I actually had started my the project, but I'm just at the half of the homepage.
Mm-hmm.
Which one should we call index.html? Is it the homepage?
Yeah, the homepage. Yeah, the kind of the main page for the website. So if you look at the flow of the website, it will go from the homepage from here, and it will go up to the list of products and then product detail. So you will probably end up with 3 pages. I would imagine.
Got it. And so what you create right now is the homepage, or is directly?
I will not be creating any of these pages. I'm just gonna do it on one HTML page. I will just show you the functionality of it, but I'm not gonna be actually creating the structure of the website.
Yeah, sorry, I need to go on with it.
Right. So you don't really have to pay too much attention to it. I'll be putting everything into this file as well into products because there's just no point splitting it right now. That's more for like refactoring or when you actually need to reuse stuff across different pages. But for now, you can just keep it in here. Yeah, so let's start with form. And again, I'm trying to recreate something like this. So, you know, some kind of selections and checkboxes and stuff. Let's go to here. So we create a form. And we will know that we want to do something on the submission of the form. And what we want to do is to apply filters. So I will create onSubmit attribute and say apply filters. And this is the kind of JavaScript function that I would call when the form is actually submitted. And it is submitted by button. So we can do button type submit. And apply filters. Alright, so that should give us the button. So now, in our JavaScript file, let's go all the way at the end of the products. We will create new function that will be apply filters. It will take an event because it's an event listener. And we will just log something out. Now, I don't know if you remember from adding event listeners, we will have to prevent the default behavior of this form because default behavior is to actually redirect you somewhere and submit the form. So we will have to prevent the default. So event prevent default and submitting form. So now, if you look at the console, yeah, we have this submitting form in there. So now we have the whole kind of functionality of how to submit the form. So the next step, I would say, would be to start adding some data to it. So if you look at the design again.
So again, could
yeah.
we go back on the index.js just to see what the code you wrote?
Yeah.
No, that's the product, the other one, the index.
I don't have any index.js. I just put everything in this file. It's fine. If you want, I can split. Actually, let me split it up for you.
Oh, I thought you put like the form. Yeah, exactly. So the form, right? Do we need that form or we don't need it?
The form is good to be there, just mainly for the semantics. So if you look at the design, this is basically a lot of form fields, right? So to me, this would be a form, and then you can kind of handle it as a form as well. It's not individual fields; it's kind of like a whole thing together. So I would prefer to put form in around there, but not always. You will find that sometimes people just put fields without a form. It depends on your choice, really.
Got it. And so you just, if you go back to the HTML file, just like to check what you said. So you say button type submit apply filters.
Yeah. So that's
Okay.
this button. That's what we press when we actually submit the form, and then the form has a event listener. And I don't know if you have done this already, but instead of doing it in JavaScript, I just do it on here, and we call this function when the event triggers.
Okay, no, so we have never done it on. We've always done it on JavaScript.
Yeah, so it's very similar. So I could literally do if I put some form in there. So I would say filter form filters form. So instead of doing this, I could just say document get on and by ID filters form at event listener submit and actually I can just do this. So I could do something like this. So this would do the same thing in JavaScript like we would do in HTML. So event listeners, not all of them, but some of them, you can actually subscribe to them as a HTML attribute. So you can say on submit, as I did in here. You can do on submit. You can also on a button, for example, you can do on click. So you can do on click instead of actually selecting the button in JavaScript and then subscribing to the event. You can do it in here. The only thing I would say is you can't unsubscribe from the events in here. You subscribe to it and you are always subscribed to it. It doesn't give you the option to actually remove the listener. So you use it mainly on things where you know that you subscribe to that event and you will always be subscribed to. You don't want to change it, basically. Does that make sense?
I think it does, yeah. A bit fast, but I think it does, yeah.
Okay. If you need something else to explain, just tell me, because just so we don't move too fast.
No.
Thomas, going back to the design, I mean, you start building a form.
Yeah.
But in the design, in the left-hand side where we have the filters, I do not think we are submitting anything unless you will just grow that form to then include all the elements like the imagery and pricing and stuff. Otherwise, I do not see the need of using a form.
So what I was saying just a minute ago, you don't have to put the form in there if you don't want to. But usually, and I prefer this, when you have some kind of input elements, you should have them grouped in a form. There are other niceties with it. It will help us in JavaScript. I will show you how in a second. It will help us in JavaScript, and also, sometimes you will have a requirement. So if I show you, if you switch to the search input field in here, if you have a requirement where you input something in this field and you press enter, and it will actually do the search. You have two options. One, you can listen for the key press in the JavaScript and then check that the key was actually enter and then do the search. So that's kind of like a long-winded way to do it. Or you can put this input into a form, and default behavior of a form is already to listen for an enter press to submit, right? So you have these kind of things to that are there basically by the browser that you can just kind of leverage to just help you, which I find useful. Also, you will know if you do it with the browser inbuilt default behavior, you know it will work. If you do it with JavaScript, you could have some bug in your JavaScript, or somebody could turn off JavaScript or whatever. and it's not gonna work. So I prefer to do it that way. But yeah, you're right. You don't have to put this form around here. I just prefer to do it that way, basically, for different reasons. Yeah, it's funny because I used to didn't put forms around fields, but then as you go through multiple projects, you kind of realize, okay, well, it's kind of better to have it in there. But the main advantage in this case will be with the JavaScript, which I will show you in a second. Let me just move this in here. Right, so moving on, let me just create index.js in here, just so it's a little bit easier to read. Right, so we will leave this one alone. We have the index. Right, so this should still work. Yep. And we are submitting the form. So you see that the page is not actually reloading because we did the prevent default, which we talked about last time. So now we're submitting the form, we can start creating the fields in the form. So what do we need to filter is colors, categories, and price range. So let's start with the categories. So categories will be a select. If you look at here, here there is a drop down for categories, so it will be some kind of list of categories in a select. So let's create a select element, and in there will be options. So this is how you write option. This is the kind of label, and this is the value for an option, and then the select the actual element, we give it a name, which will be category. And yeah, so this is the kind of blueprint of a select. So let's have a look at our data.
Are you gonna send us the code, or because I'm trying to write at the same time, but I'm a bit slow.
You can write yourself at the same time, but what I would say is, I'm not gonna send you the code, but well, I mean I can, but I will show you the functionality. But to actually apply it to your design and stuff, you're gonna have to amend it somehow. So you can't just kind of copy paste it. You're gonna have to do different things
course,
to it.
It helps to have it, either have it or kind of copy it right now. So that
But yeah, I mean, I don't see a problem sending it to you, really. I mean, I don't think
Thomas,
it's
remember that we get the videos on YouTube, so it's better to understand what he's doing, and we can just get the code and do the typing in our own piece after just following the video.
Yeah, you could do that as well. I mean, it will take you more time, but yeah. Right, so now we have the select, so let's have a look at the products. And there will be somewhere categories, probably. So here, colors, materials, description, and comfortable. Oh, type. Okay, so it's called type in here, I guess. Yeah. So let's take a couple of them. So we have table, chair, bed, sofa, table. So let's add a couple of them. So we will say that we have bed.
So options value.
Oh, sorry, option. I will say table.
Okay. So then you just do them all.
You just list them out, yeah. Chair, sofa. Now again, like in the real life, when you will be actually doing website with the backend and everything, you would get these categories from the backend, and you would programmatically put them on the page. You wouldn't actually hard code them like this, but because of this exercise, we're just gonna hard code them. But normally you would kind of do like an iteration over options, and you would just make however many you need from the list. So if I look at the website now, we have this select with bed, table, chair, sofa. I don't know if there are any other. Hold it on. Yeah, that looks pretty much it. Right, so now we have the category. Let's give it a label as well. So you can say label category. And now if you, so now we're basically recreating this part in here without the design, basically. Let me just wrap it up in.
That's so nice.
I just wrap it up in div just so it goes on the next page, but I'm not gonna do much styling in here just to save some time. Yeah, so now we have the category. Now what else do we need? We need color and price range, right?
So the button is at the end.
The button can be anywhere, but you know, like as you go through the form, you kind of go from the top to the bottom. So you would usually put it at the end.
And you need to put it in the div as well, so to make it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure why does it say when you press the button, because I don't see any button in here, but yeah. You can check that with Vassal, I'm not sure. Maybe there should be a button down here. I'm not 100% sure. But it's nice anyway to test your logic, to have a button so you can actually click it and it will do something rather than trying to do it on change and stuff.
Thomas, since you as an instructor have that doubt, obviously we will all have it by the time that we sit and code it. So instead of all of us asking Vasil, it's better like after class if you ask it publicly in the group, so we all get the answer, and you are probably going to transmit the question better so that Vasil can answer us all.
Yeah, I can do that. Let me just make some notes and I can ask some stuff.
Because we all will need that clarification anyways, and you will know the best way to ask it, and he will know exactly what you're referring to.
Yeah. Cool.
And sorry, maybe it's a stupid question, but
no, go for it.
Option name, is it you that chooses it, or is it standard in the select?
You mean this one?
Yeah, like this. Like, do you name it option because you wanted to name it option, or can you name it whatever you want it to be?
So the name is the name of the attribute that's actually set in HTML, and whatever name you give it, that's up to you.
Oh, no,
the option word is HTML, standard HTML.
Okay,
That's the way it is.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Right. Now we can do the colors. So again, what do we have in there? We have a couple of colors in here. Each of them has some kind of label. And they are checkboxes. So checkbox, we will create input checkbox, input type checkbox, sorry. And to give it a label, we can wrap the whole thing in label and say gray. So now this should give us one checkbox with a color. Let me just put some titles in here as well, so it's a little bit more distinguished.
Okay, so it's an input checkbox. Got it.
Yeah, so input type checkbox. Again, you give it some name, and in this case, you would say you would give it like color, for example. Oh, sorry. Right, and then we need to create one checkbox for every color. So if you look at here, we have loads of colors in here. So we're gonna create just a couple of them just to show you as an example. Again, once you build it yourself, you're gonna have to build it with all the colors, but just for this purpose of this.
And what does the
exercise.
label does? What does it do? The label.
So the label will show the text next to the input. The other kind of function of the label is that if you click the label, the checkbox changes as well. If you didn't put it in the label, and you would just put input with a gray beside it, then if you click the gray, nothing would happen. So the label kind of knows that if there is an input in it, and you click the label, then change the value of the input as well.
Got it.
So yellow, gray. Need to give them value as well. Gray. Yellow. Salmon green. Okay. Now you will notice that these values, they are the thing that actually code is working with, and these labels are what people see, right? What the users see. The same in the option, the value is what the code is actually working with, and the label is what, in this case, the content of the option is what the user sees. So the way that I actually decide what should be in the value is looking at the structure of the data, right? So I see that the type is table, chair, the first letter is capitalized, and so on. So that's what I put in here, in the values. The same thing in here, here in the checkboxes. In here, the label is capitalized name of the color, while the value is with lowercase name. And that's because if you look at the colors, you have everything lowercase in here. So these are the values that matter, that you will be matching later. Whatever you put in here, in the labels, doesn't really matter. You can just say color gray and color yellow, for example. You could do that as well, and it wouldn't really matter because this is literally just what the user sees. It doesn't matter if it's in the data or not. Right, so we build up some kind of color selector. We have a category selector, and the last one was, or almost the last one, I think, was categories and price range. Okay. So for the price range, we can do a range input. Let's just do simple one for now. So if we do H3 price range, and we would say input type range. And again, you don't necessarily need to know what input type range is, but you can find it in the documentation later. So if you go to MDN and say input type range, then it will show you everything you need to know about this kind of input. It will show you examples with it as well. It will show you it will list somewhere down here. It will list all the attributes that you can put in there, and so on. So there are non-standard attributes as well. Yeah, so you can then later on, you can go, and if you need to do something else with range, you can go and check the documentation to actually see what can you do with range.
That's quite cool, the price range one.
Sorry?
It's quite a cool input.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Again, it will get you, so for example, if you look at the design, this is our price range. So it has actually two selectors. You can't do that with HTML, unfortunately. You will have to use some kind of library for that, probably. So yeah, you could potentially fake it. You could do like two ranges beside each other, and one will be selecting from one side, or the other from the other, or something like that. But yeah, you can't do like a double-sided range. At least as far as I know, we can't do double-sided range in just pure HTML. So we will do the simple one now, and I will add it to my list of questions if Vasil was thinking about using some library. Right, so in the range, we will define that the minimum is 0, for example, and maximum is, and I think there was $10,000, so we will do 10,000. And that should show us a range selector in here with, with the range that we basically selected. You will see that later in JavaScript. Yeah, so now we have all these three inputs. So now we can actually start getting the data from it. So that's the first step, was to actually display the options, right? The second step will be listen for the click on apply filter. We already did that with the submit. And now we will be actually collecting the data from the form. So now we will get to what I mentioned before, how this form is going to be useful for us. So there are different ways how can you get data from form or from fields in general. One would be to select every single field and then get the data from it, which is perfectly fine. And it will be very similar to what we will do. But you kind of risking that you're going to select something else on the page. Let's say if a third party or different developer or whatever, it puts something with the same name on the page, and you are not very careful with your selectors, then you basically running chance that you're gonna select something else. So what we will do in here is we will actually select the form instead of the fields. So we will say our form is document, and I think I gave it an ID. Yeah. So you can select it by ID, get element by ID, and I will select this form. So now we should have reference to the form. Let's check if we do. And I think I did tell you this before. Console log is the best thing for you. You can just log anything you want, and it will help with making sure that you're actually doing what you think you're doing. So now I have the form selected, and now once you have your form selected, the nice thing about HTML and JavaScript, how it works together, automatically you will have access to all of these fields inside of the form by referencing them by name. So what I mean by that is, if you can say console log filters form, and I can do dot, and for example our category, what is the name? So the name is category. So if I do dot category, right? So if I log out this filters form dot category, then you see it will give me the actual field. So this is very useful for not actually interacting with something that you don't know about, right? So if you know that you write your form and you give it an ID or some kind of selector, and you select that form and then work just within that form, there is not much that can go wrong with the rest of the page. So it's very nice to kind of scope stuff.
Where did you get that console out?
Here. Actually, it's very small, isn't it?
Okay.
There it is. So now I see my select in here. Yeah.
Okay.
And now I can just work with it as a normal HTML element.
And in this case, the get element by ID works the same as query selector.
Yeah, you could do query selector in here as well. You can.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to show you the other option, so this is actually accessing the inputs via the form element, right? Form HTML element. If you want to go the other way around, then you wouldn't have to select the actual form. You could just select the select input by itself. So what you could do is you could say select input, or even better, category input, and you could say document query selector, and we have it as a select with the name of category. So this should give us the same result.
I can also put the ID instead of select name category.
Yes, you could put ID, but then you would have to put ID to every single element in your HTML.
Okay.
It really, you know, this is the thing with development in general. You see, so we have this sort of, this is the thing. Like there is about 100 approaches, and it's just up to you which one do you select, which one do you prefer, right? You could, yeah, as Ricardo said, you could put ID in here. Oh, so you could say category select, for example, and then you could just select it by ID. But then again, and this, so if I show you now, if I place a new select in here, if I basically duplicate this one in here, so by some chance, suddenly you're gonna have another select somewhere on the page. You can't give it the same ID, so you will get into a situation where you would say, okay, I need to name it differently. So in here, I would say filter category select, for example. You know, so that's already one thing. If I wouldn't use the form, if I would just select it by ID or query selector, then I could potentially, because normally you use query select all. So if I do this one, then now I should have two of them, you see? So now I have two of them selected, and I didn't really realize that, right? When I was writing this code, you don't realize that there could be another selector because you're just working here. You don't really care about what's here. Well, at least you shouldn't. So that's why if I do it with the form as I did it before, and just say filters form.
And why get filters form?
Sorry?
Get them by ID filters form.
Yeah.
On line 1, just where's the ID filters form?
That's on the actual element. So in here we have ID filters form.
Okay. Got it.
So we select in the whole form, and then we kind of work within that form rather than working with the whole document, basically. Which is always, generally speaking, it's always better to scope stuff, right? So identify your scope. So I am working within this form, within the scope of this form, and I don't want to care about anything else. So JavaScript will help you with that in this way. So you can select the form, and then you can just reference whatever inside of it, and you don't have to worry if there is another input with the name category on the page. You don't have to worry about that. Right, so now we have the form, and we know how to get to each of the elements. Let's write a function that would collect all the data. Right, so let's write a function and say collect form data. And to make it even, let's just leave it like this for now. Right.
And basically, you don't call it like you call it function. It's interesting because we keep on doing it the new way now. You know.
Yeah, you could do this. Yes. I mean, this way, yeah, it's probably better. Well, it is better, but it's just because we're working now just on the root and we don't really have like a full-blown website, then that's what I'm used to. But you can do this one as well. There's no issue with that really. It's a little bit clearer to me that this is a function if you work like this.
Got it.
Right, so now to collect the form data. So we have the form. Actually, we can even put this inside of here. It doesn't have to be on the whole page. So you can put it in here like that. Yeah, but we can. I will show you, like, as you develop something, you refactor a lot, which basically means you iterate through your code and you're changing it to a better architecture or something else. So I can show you some differences from this approach to the next approach a little bit later. So I'm going to leave it like this on purpose, and then I will show you what else you could do with that. So now we have the filters form, and now we just need to collect all the data that we have. So let's create a new object, which will be data. And we know that we want to collect what? Colors. What else was the category? And sorry, oh, I've closed this. Category and price range. Sorry, my memory is not the best today. Let's just call it price for now. Right, so this is the kind of object that we want to do, and we want to return data. So now we have this function that will basically collect. It doesn't do it yet, but we have this function that we can call at any point, and it will collect the data from our form. So now, how are we going to collect the data? First, colors. We have all these checkboxes, and to know the values of those that are actually checked, we need to go through each of them, and we need to check which ones are actually checked. Right? So, first of all, we can get the checkboxes. So we can say const color checkboxes, color inputs, and we can say filter forms filter form dot what is it called? Color. Okay. If you look at our console log, let's just execute it on submit. So basically what I did here is just I'm executing this collect form data function when we submit the actual form. So this one we want to remove. I will rename this function as well, because normally what we tend to name it is when you're actually adding function to an event, we call it handle. So we say handle handle filters, for example.
So you say handle apply filters.
It could be handle apply filters as well. Yeah. I just felt like it's a little bit too verbose, but it could be. It could be. So now if I press apply filters, it will execute this function, and you will see that I have now 4 inputs in my list, and they are the checkboxes. Okay, so now we are, next step basically is we have all of these, so that's good, and now we need to get the values that are actually selected. So to do that, any ideas?
Like colors, right?
Sorry?
To add colors there.
Yeah, so we have all the inputs, and how do we get the list of the ones that are selected?
Yeah, exactly. So you just iterate through the product, and if product matches the one that you have selected, then you give it.
So what you said, you are going a little bit, you are going one step further, right? So you're already applying it to the actual products, but right now what we need is literally just an array of the ones that are selected. So if I select green and yellow, I want to have array of, I want colors to be green and yellow.
Ah, okay. So what we're looking for here, data, is actually our selection. Oh, okay, sorry, collect form.
Yeah. So this is the actual form data. Yeah. Right. So we need to look through all the checkboxes. I mean, to check which ones are actually checked, and then save the values. So if we say const selected colors, and we can say it's an array, let's say, and then we do filters form. Oh, sorry, we already have the color inputs. Color inputs, and we would do for loop. So you should already know this syntax. I'm just writing a loop to go through all the checkboxes.
Yeah.
And then in here, I will say if the the current color input, so this one, the current one, is checked, then save its value. So I would say select colors, push color inputs by value. Okay, so let's verify if that actually works. I'm not sure myself, so the best thing to do is to do console log. So if I select 2 and I apply filters, it will give me gray yellow. If I select salmon and yellow, yellow and salmon. So that's correct. That's what we were kind of expecting, right? And then we just need to say colors are the selected colors. Okay, so this is our final object that we want to return. To be honest, I didn't have to do this. I could just do return in here like this. So now we are collecting. Let me just put some comments in here a little bit. Collect selected colors. So that's first step done. So now we actually know which colors are selected. The next step, we need to get the value of category. So the same way like we did the checkboxes, we're gonna find the element which is now going to be filters form dot, and the name of the category is of the input is category. So we know that form filters form category. That's our select element, and we want to get the value out of it, right? So again, how would you get a value from select, right? So if you do get value from select, and you go to Stack Overflow, and it will show you you need to select the element and then just use eValue like you would do with any other one, right? You could also, the other approach, which nobody is mentioning for some reason. Oh no, there is, yeah. So the other approach would be you can go through all the options of that element, and then use the selected index and get the value from that option. So basically, what does that mean is you select the select. The select will tell you which of the options is selected by its index, and then you can go and to the actual option and get the value from it, which is better approach, I think. So if you do, so we can do this one actually doesn't need to be a loop or anything. This can be just here, and we can say category options, and the same thing, filters form category selected index dot value. So this should give us the correct value. So let's try if it does. Yeah, again, reading, just Googling and reading documentation will help a lot. But eventually you will know these things. You will remember them. So if I select now chair and I apply the filters, you will see that category is chair. If I select sofa, the category is sofa, right? Colors, we don't have any colors selected. We can select 2, and now we will have colors, salmon and green, and category sofa. This is very interesting what just happened, and you should know this as well. If you look at these two logs, I hope I still have your attention because I'm talking a lot, but if you look at these two logs, if you open the first one, it will tell you category is sofa and colors are these. If you okay, so the Chrome changed it. Basically, what I was trying to show you is the objects are not in order, right? So it could happen to you that colors would be displayed before category because objects don't have any order. So if you would do, if you would store this object and you say temp1 0, right, or 1 or whatever, if you basically get the first key in the object, it's not going to be always the same. Actually, let's just do object keys temp1 0, right? So this will give you colors. Not in every browser and not in every circumstance you will get the same key as a first key in the object, because objects by default are not sorted, right? So you need to be careful about that. Arrays, on the other hand, are sorted. So you know that in this array, the first index will always be salmon, always. But in object, you can't know which key will come first. It's not in order, basically. So you need to remember that as well. Right, so now we have that, and now the last thing we need to do is create the price. Collect the price that we actually have in the price range. So again, we go down to our input. We didn't give it any name, which is a mistake. So we need to do price, and then in here we can just say filters form price, and because it's just a simple input, you can do value. So now, if I refresh this and I select salmon and yellow,
that whole bit about form data, you took it out then, right?
Sorry, yeah, I just took it out because you can just return straight away. So if I select yellow and salmon chair, and then I select some kind of price, apply filters, you will see that we have yellow salmon chair and prices. We selected 1832. If I go here, it will be different price. So now this is us collecting all the data from the form that we need. Okay. Now, again, important thing to know, we are doing it manual. This is like a hard manual process. In 99% of projects, you wouldn't have to do this because you would use some kind of library or framework that actually does this for you. But it's good to know how it's done. Right? So at least you will know how it works kind of underneath under the hood. Right, so that's our next step finished. Get selected colors, categories, and price range. And now we need.
Can you show that code again?
Yeah.
So that function is returning colors, category, and price.
Yes.
And where are those variables in the function? Where's the variables? I mean, colors is selected colors.
Yeah.
Okay, selected colors is an array. Why aren't you returning selected colors?
Because we need to know which one are we going to be filtering by. So if I select gray and yellow, we want to display products only that are gray and yellow.
Okay, sorry. I think I answered my own question. Now that I look at it, what we're returning is an object.
Yeah, so we're returning an object with all the data from the form collected.
Okay, so colors is an array that comes from color.
Yeah.
Category,
it just gets the value from the selector from here. So this is just one liner that we can put in here. Just to make it a little bit clearer, we can define it in here. So we can say selected category, and we can just take this whole thing, put it in here.
And where's the price coming from? I don't see a price variable in the function.
And the price variable, again, it's coming directly from here because we don't really need to, but we can. We can do const selected price. And we can just copy paste this one in. Just so it's easier to read. So now we're returning object and we just using the variables inside of the function, and then we define whatever the variables are in here. The checkbox one is the most kind of difficult one because you need to go through all the checkboxes and check which ones are actually checked. These ones you just get the value from the inputs.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So now we have the actual values. We need to filter the products. So this is the kind of major point about the functionality of the filters. So we are getting now into this function where you actually handle the filter. So when we click on something, it collects the data and then it needs to do something next. What it needs to do is it needs to look at this array of products and it needs to filter out those that don't fit the criteria. Okay. Just for the sake of this example, we will assume that if at least one of the criteria is fulfilled, then it will show in the in the array. Okay, for now. So we will need to print them out as well at some point. So but let's just do it in console first. Right. So we have our product, we have our data. Let me just do this. So okay, so we have our selected filters. And now we will need to go through all the products and make sure that those filters are satisfied or not. So if I do products, and now I don't know how far are you with arrays and stuff, but arrays have built-in loops just do just that basically. So I can say products filter. Have you used that before? Products filter? I mean filter.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So you know what it does. So it will take the array that you call the method on. And oh, by the way, if you have done any other language, you might have come across to this, but you will find me saying function or method. Function is a standalone function. Method is something attached to another object or class if you work with different languages. It is the same thing. Filter is a function, but because it's attached to array, it's called method basically. So just so you're not confused, that's the difference between function and method. So we filter the products, and we will say we have a product inside of this loop, and in here we need to give the criteria if the product actually should be included in the result products or not. So this is where we actually start applying our filters, right? So so here we can start with colors. So we can say check if color is correct. Well, actually, yeah, let's start with colors. So what we need to do, we have a colors, which is an array of colors, and we need to check that at least one of the colors is included in that array. I mean, in the colors of this product. So we will have to loop through all the colors that are selected, and then we will need to do another loop within that loop to check if it's actually included in here. That's one way of doing it. Let's write it because it's good to know. So if we say I always start with for loops, even though it could be different loops, but it's just good to write it out like this because then you know what actually is going on. So if we say I is less than, what do we have selected? Filters, colors, length, I++. So now we are going through the selected colors. And now we need to check in each of the products. So we have the product in here. We need to check in each of the products if the color is actually in there. So if the product actually has the color that we are looking at now. Right? So we will say product colors, and we have two options now. One option would be to make another loop. Right? So let's write it out. So option 1 loop. We can say for when j equals 0, j product colors length j++. Okay, so now we are going through all the colors inside of the product, and we will have to define something in here that says color found. No, sorry, false. And we'll say if product colors j equals what do we have there? Selected colors, selected filters colors I, then color found equals true, right? So this will give us, this will look through all the colors and it will match them together with the product colors, and it will give us if it's actually there or not. The much simpler option would be to check if it's in the array, which JavaScript gives us. So what we can do is we can just write if product colors includes this one. So we literally saying if the product colors includes the selected color that we're checking now, then do something. So this is much easier way of writing this basically. But this includes, what it means is that on the background it will go through all the items in the array and it will match it against whatever you're giving it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think you are the only one with me, Christina. No?
Yeah, no, yes,
Yeah. Does it make sense though?
It does, yes.
Yeah? Cool. So you're literally just looking, you're going through the selected colors, so whichever you selected in here, and then you're going for each of these colors, you're going through the list of colors for the product, and you're checking if it's actually there or not, just to see if you should be including it in the results or not. So once we do this, we can just say return true in here. So this already means that yes, this product should be in the filters. Now again, and I will make sure that I will ask this also as well. Filter rules. Depends on the requirements. These conditions are going to be written differently because it depends if you say I want everything that is only blue and black, or I want anything that is blue or black, or I want something that is blue and a sofa. You know, it depends on what kind of matching do you want to do. So for now, we're just getting with, if I find anything that matches something in the product, I will keep the product. I will display it. We can change it a little bit later if you have some time to kind of play around with it. So
for
yeah.
loop, you need to have 2 or 3 different for loops for each type, like color, category, and price. Right?
Yes. So for each of them, we will just check the product, and if the product matches at least one of the criteria, it will be displayed. Which is not necessarily what you always want, but for the sake of this exercise, that's what we will be doing now. So yeah, so here we have the here we have the colors. Okay, so we're gonna go next, and we will say check if what is next category. Check if category matches. The category in our data from the form is called category. In the product, it's called type. Okay, so we will be matching our category to a type on the product. You could obviously rename this to a type, and you could do that. That's fine. It really depends on up to you how you choose it. So now we're going already through all the products. So all we have to do is we just have to say if product type type equals a selected filters category, then return true. Okay. So now, if the type matches the category, it will return true. So what happens in here now is it will check all the colors. If one color is matched, it will straight away say, okay, this product should be displayed. If no color matches, it will go down to category and it will check the category. If the category matches, it will display it. If not, it will continue down here.
But so by returning true, what does it actually do?
So filter, this function that goes through the products. If you return true,
okay.
that means it will be included. If you return false, it will be excluded. Yeah.
Yes.
So now we have
Hey Thomas, sorry that
yeah.
I didn't mention it before, but remember for the video that the bigger you can make the font size, the better
Yes.
for us to follow.
Is there anything? Is it the website that's too small?
No, the code.
The code is
So
too
I
small.
think what Ricardo is saying is that afterwards, if we watch the video, I have never done it, but I think on YouTube it's maybe too small. So
Yeah. I'm trying to because
it would be awesome as well if we have the code so that.
Yeah, I can send it over definitely.
Cool.
I mean, unless let me ask that Vasil as well if he finds it as a cheating or not. But I think
Well,
it
we
should be
could go
fine.
on YouTube and then recopy it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, and I guess looking at the project, it looks like we need to have like a double filter, like so it's on the price, for example. So it's not exactly the same. It's just
yeah, definitely. You're gonna have to. I'm just kind of showing you a little bit of a mechanism how to kind of implement it, but you're gonna have to tailor it to whatever you need to do in that project. Right. So the last one is the price. Right. So we need to say, and now we are talking about if it's actually less or equal to that price that we selected. So we need to say if product, and what do we have here? Price is less or equal to selected filters price, then return true. Okay, so now this should work. So let's verify that. If we go here, we have the filtered products, so let's log them out. And see what it does. So right now we're saying we want to select all the bets, let's say in any price range. So if product is not defined. What is that? 27.
I think it's because it's product we want. Yeah, exactly.
There we go. Right. So let's do it again. So if we do bets, then it should give us all the bets. You see that all the types are bets. Yeah. If we say that we want everything, actually, let me just do. So one thing that we need to do in here, because now in the category we will always have something selected, which is not necessarily what we want. So we can create another one where we would say the value is nothing and select category. It's just to kind of be able to reset the filter, so make sure that nothing is selected. And then in here in here, you can say if the product type is this category, or the selected category is nothing, then display it.
Yep.
So this way, we should be able to just say select the category, nothing selected, just the price range, well, price and maximum. It should give us all of them, right? All the categories. If we select table, sorry, if we select table, it should give us just tables. Okay, so now this is filtering. If we say select everything in the price range of something, okay, something smaller, then it should give us something smaller. But it seems like the price range is actually much smaller than on the designs. So we have 970. Yeah, so it's going to be more to 1,000 rather than 10,000. So let's just change this now. Right. So now we should get. We're not getting it. Oh, right, because we have because we have this. So it will include everything. So this was a mistake. So in here we need to say. So if it's not, so we need to say if it's not empty and it matches. Usually you would put this first. Doesn't really matter. And I will split it on 2 lines for you just to be a little bit more readable. So if the category is not empty and it matches the category, then return. So in that case, we should see that. Yeah, so now we have bets. And the price is, let's put this out as well, select it, filters. The price is 500. I think it doesn't anything. Must have made some mistakes somewhere there. Oh, there. Oh no, there's 270. If price is less or equal to selected price. So again, let's do a. I'm missing something very obvious in here, so I just right. So it's getting there. Oh, of course. So for the price, sorry, you see it's a string because everything from inputs is a string. We said this in the command line applications as well. Whatever user input is always a string. So what you have to do in here is you need to parse it. So you say parse int.
Parse int. Yeah.
And that will give you the number. So that should be price 500 now. Still not returning anything. That's strange. Oh, even worse. There should be a return in here, of course. Right. Now it will work. So if you give really small price range, nothing. If you go a little bit higher, it will give you 3 chairs, sofa, and bed. So now this works as well. If I go as much as I can, it will give us all of them. Okay, so this filtering now works. And the color, we need to test as well. So if we say I want everything gray, then, well, this is going to be hard to see, but you see that this one has a gray in there. How do we write the gray? Gray, gray.
I guess the best way to check is if you click them all, you see the items that have the 4 colors. If there are any.
We need to, so because now in this case what we have is we basically selecting all the color. So we if no color is gonna match, it's gonna go down to these as well. So we will have to, this is like a hard filter, so you need to make sure that if it doesn't match, the ones that don't match are filtered out. So the easiest way, just to prove the concept, would be to split this out into two filters. Or just do a hard filter in here. So we can say matched color, false, and then we can say matched color true, right? And then after this we can say if matched color right. So let's just do, so if we do we can do return matched color, but that's not gonna work with the other filters obviously. So now it should give us everything that's gray, which is not which is nothing because we have gray. So now it will give us 6 things because they have gray color, salmon as well. It will give us 12 things, green, 15 things, yellow, 17 things. So now it's matching by the color, but it's not gonna match by the category. So it's more now we kind of getting into this combination. So we will have to restrict. So if it does match a color, then continue with the other filters and filter the rest of the stuff out as well. You can do it either in the same filter like we do in here, or you can split it into 2 filters. So what you could say is you could have a color filtered. So you could say color filtered products, and then you basically do this. Right, so you will check if the color is actually correct, if it's there or not. And then you could say filtered products, and you would be already filtering the color filtered. So color filtered products. And
I'm kind of lost now, but it's fine. I'll review the video.
Sorry?
No, I'm a bit lost, but I guess it's okay.
No, it's let me just, we should talk about it, but I'm missing something somewhere.
So let mat color is false as a default.
Yeah.
And then if the selected filter colors is selected, then you say it's true.
Yes, so by default we say no color has matched, right? No color matched. And then as it goes through the colors, if at least one matches, then it will change to true, and then it will return if it was actually at the end of the loop. It will return if it was actually true or false.
Whereas before it was just going through every color, and when you had one color, for example, selected gray, among like gray, yellow, and salmon, would just hit on yes. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yes, but before it was more. It was matching all the colors, but even if non-color matched, it will still continue. It will still continue with the execution. So there was no. So if you select at least one color, so basically this filter, if you think about it, apart from code, this filter, how it should behave is that when you select one color, you basically want to get rid of all the items that don't have that color, right? So this is kind of like different behavior from these ones, where you select 1 or 2 colors or whatever, and everything that doesn't match these will be filtered out. while these ones we just added like a this and that, but this one needs to be or. Basically, it's a different kind of filter. I'm missing something in here, and I think it is this. Right, so now we can filter by color, and then if we say I want all the beds that are gray and yellow, then it should work. Filtered products, color filtered products. So if the category matches, so basically the first filter that we do in here is we get rid of all the products that don't have that color. Right, so that's 8 products now have that color, and then we go to the second one, and we will say take the color filtered products, so those all 8 products, sorry, and check if the category is not empty and the type matches the category, and return true. And if the price range, if the price matches as well. So again we are getting into the thing where we kind of trying to affect the other filters with the previous ones. So now it will filter out the ones, I mean, it will decide if they actually are the right type, but even if they are not, then it will check the price, and if the price is within the range, then it will return true. So if I change this price to here, then I should see just bets, you see. So if I don't select the price, I will see just the bets, basically. So again, we could apply another filter. And this is like, I'm just writing it out like this, so hopefully you can understand how it works, but eventually you would refactor it to something better looking, let's say. So now we have category filtered products, and we can say filter all the colored products, color filtered products already, and just make sure that you return this. So you can then literally say return instead of if. Right, and like this. So you now you're returning the actual condition. So if it's true, it will keep the category one. If it's false, it's gonna filter it out. So now if I change this to category, I'm missing again this one, right? And remove this one. So the last one is the price, and you can just return in here as well. And it will filter them out. Right, so now we did at the end we actually got to it. So we did the more kind of complex filter where it depends on each other. So if I say I want everything gray, any price, what? If I want anything gray, and if the category is not selected, if the category is not empty, so let's just print it out. So we say this is our color category. This is our category filter, and this is our final one. Yeah, so we can just log it out like this. And we say select everything yellow. So you will see that you have 7 of them, and then this category doesn't work. So if so we're saying if it's empty, or it's the right type. So that should work. So gray will give us 6 of them. Because we didn't select any category, we still have 6 of them. And in the end we have 5 of them because the price didn't match. So now if I select, so you see that we have 6, and we have table, chair, bed, sofa, table, sofa, so we have 2 sofas. So if I select sofa, we should see only 2 of them coming out at the end, which is right. So we have to negate the if basically. So now you have code that basically filters everything depending, I mean it adds up all the filters. So it will filter by color, it will filter by category, and it will filter by price, and then you can get the ones that are the one that actually matches, which is Norwood table and for this price. Okay. Yeah, so let me just add this again. Yeah, so this is how you filter them out. So now you have basically a list of the filtered products, and you can print them out if you want on the page. So if you just quickly do like a printout, so let's say in here we say somewhere product, we add section to products, say the ID product list. Right, so we can do product list, and then we can say in here we can create a new function that will print out all the products. So we can say function print products. It will take the products that actually needs to be printed. Go, and then the first thing we will do is we will remove everything inside of the product list. So we'll say document get element by ID product list, I think it's called. So we are getting this element in here, product list, and we delete everything inside of it. So we can do that with inner HTML. So this will basically erase everything inside of it. So if I refresh, you will see we have products, nothing in there. And then we can say products, and we can map. Now we can do for each. So that's our list of products, and we will do for each. And on each product, we will say product list, append child. We can do div. I haven't done it manually forever, so I think it will work. I'm not sure. Div product name. Yeah. So it will print out all the names of the products. Oop, that did not sure what happened there. Right, so now this should print out all the products that we give this to the function. So we can actually execute it straight away when we load this script. So we can say print products, and we can give it all of the products that we have in our requirements. So hopefully products for each is not a function. Is that for each? So is it? Yeah. Right. Ah. Right, so let's see what we have in here.
Do you create a div for each product?
Yeah, you can create div. You can, I guess, I mean, you know, whatever you want to put in there. You can put a list in there as well, obviously. But I just want to keep it as simple as possible. No. Right, so let's have a look at create element. You actually have to write it out. I thought you can do it somehow. Somehow differently, but you can't. Okay. Okay. So let's just write it out then. So you create the element for the product. Again, you wouldn't do this necessarily, like, you know, using libraries and stuff like that, because it's just not being done that much now. But it is good to know how to do it. So you can create the element, and then you can say, you know, HTML, for example, and you can give it an h4. And then you append it to the product list. So this hopefully should work. Let's just quickly try it. Doesn't work. We have the list. We have the diffs. So I can't do it in HTML, right? Okay. What if we just do the product name then? Or you might have to actually first append it and then change it. So if we do this, no. Oh, are you still there, guys? Because I think I lost my connection for a second. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I don't know. Something weird was showing up in here.
I kind of lost you for.
Sorry.
I think the connection is a bit weird.
Okay. I'm not really sure why it doesn't print out anything. That's weird. Oh, there you go. Okay. I'll have a look at that one later. So, yeah, you can see now we have all these products in here. So name of the products, let's say. Let's make it a little bit so we actually know what it is. So product name, and then you can do the type, for example. Oh, let's do type. And price as well. And colors as well. So you actually see how it works. So right, so hopefully it should work. No. product. Yeah. So now we see all the products on the page. Obviously, once you're gonna be doing that, it's gonna be on the website. It's gonna be looking all pretty and stuff. In here, we just, for the actual working of it, we're just printing it out. So you can see all the products now. If I say I want to get all the products in this price range, oh, sorry, I didn't apply it. So now we actually print all the products. We need to print all the products also after we filter them. So we can take the filtered products and filter them and print them out. So now, if we don't need the console for now. If I say I want all the products in a very small price range and I apply, there is no products. If I make it a little bit bigger, it should be there. Let me just check the console again. Oh no, there is nothing in there. Let's say gray. Yeah, so now we have 5 products in there because we filtered by the gray color, and you can see that all of them have the gray color. If I say I want all the sofas, then it will give you just sofas. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. I know it's a lot of stuff to digest, but it's really just about, it's the same concepts, loops and events and stuff like that. It's just kind of playing around with them and making it work really. You will find your own approach, I'm sure. This is just one of the many approaches that we can do. But as long as it works, I think it will be okay, at least for the first try. So that we have the filter and display, and now we have sorting and add to basket. I think the add to basket should be, you should figure it out quite easy, but let's do the sorting as well. So quickly, let's put the sort. So any questions about the filter before I move to sort?
I have one just about index HTML, where we using in select name category, we are using option. Can we use paragraph or no?
Can we use, sorry?
Paragraph, I mean like feed.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Can we use what?
I mean, we are using now option value. And can we use, for example, paragraph or div or etc. Or we should use option for category?
Well, it depends on it depends on what your requirements are. So I can't. Well, let me just see if I can if there is the categories open in here. But yeah, I don't see the categories open, and it kind of suggests to me that this might be a select. It might be a list of checkboxes as well, so you can use that as well. So we could easily convert this into the same thing that we have with the colors. So you would have like a list of checkboxes, or it can be radios as well. So I'm not sure how much you know from forms, but checkboxes, when you have a list of checkboxes, you can check as many of them as you want. If you use radios, that means you can select only one. So you could select only one at a time. So we could do that as well for the categories, which would basically behave the same like the select, because you cannot select multiple ones in here. But yeah, it really depends on you can use anything really, but it depends on the requirements. I don't, from here, this looks like a checkbox to me, so I think you can select multiple ones. Unfortunately, we can't see if this is a select or checkbox or something. I chose select just to show you a little like different element. That's the only reason why I chose this one. Does that answer your question?
Okay, yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because I know, when I try to build something with HTML, I just try to div, and I'm using For example, P or D, but I never saw options, so I never used.
Oh, okay, I know what you mean. Okay.
About options.
Yeah, so for this one, yes, you will have to use option. So to get this on the page, this selector, you need to use a select element, and the select element has children, and they are always option. You cannot use a P or something like that. You could potentially wrap these in different elements, but they will not work exactly. It's not kind of like a free HTML that you can do in here. It will be restricted styling. So you could potentially, I think you can even style, you might be able to style the colors. I'm not actually 100% sure. Let's try. So if I do style color red, something like that. Yeah, it doesn't work. So I don't think you, I think you put, I think I've seen some styled ones, but you can actually create these with JavaScript as well to have more control over what you display in there. But by default, the select element in HTML, you need to use option inside of it, and it's basically kind of like a bare bones label and value combination.
Okay, I understand. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about the filtering?
No, it's clear. I mean, obviously, I guess we would never get to do it without you.
No, of course you will get to do it. It's really,
That's the challenging part.
Yeah. It looks a little bit chaotic, only because it's new, obviously, and because honestly, I feel like we should have had this prepared a little bit better in advance, like rather than kind of thinking on the spot. We should kind of agree on what is the best implementation and present it to you. But other than that, it's really like if you look at this, and we are almost out of time, so I'm not going to be able to go through everything. But I just want to concentrate so you understand it. If you look at this, there is nothing new happening that you wouldn't know. It just looks like a lot, but it really isn't if you break it down. So all that's happening in here, and if I collapse it, let's just go line by line. So all I did was declare a couple of functions. You know how to declare functions, you know how to use parameters in the functions, right? And in here, I just call the function. The reason why I call it in here is because this will get executed right at the beginning when you load the page, right? Because it's right here, kind of flying on its own. It will get executed right on initialization. And that basically does that when you load the page, it will print out all the products, right? So that's the only reason. Now, if you look inside of the functions, selecting element on the page, you already know how to do that. In here, this is just declaring variables. There is nothing special about that. And then there is a loop, and you know how to do that as well. And if a decision. So again, nothing new in there. The same thing in here. You're just assigning new things. Parse int. You even told me yourself you know how to do that. So this function is pretty straightforward. It's just you coming up with the logic that's going to be the hard part. Like you just need to kind of look back at it and see how would I implement this. But you have all the tools, you have all the knowledge that you need to do that. Handle filters. So this is a basically event subscription that comes from the HTML. That's what I introduced you today. We could write it. You didn't have to write this in here. You could have written it in JavaScript as well. And then inside of it, again, nothing new. So prevent default, we talked about it before, and then you get it's basically all loops. So you select all your filters that you already did. That's the function that we just went through, and then you go one filter by one filter, and you filter out all the products that you don't want there. So if you imagine like a pie, basically. So in here at the beginning you have the full pie, right? And then you go through the first filter, and you take a couple of bytes, so a couple of bytes off. So that's your first filter. So you're checking the colors, and everything that doesn't match, you just basically throw away. And then you come in here, and you go again, a couple of bytes off, and that's another filter, right? So you go through categories and just make sure that this filter will loop through all the items it will do the match that you want, which is just checking if the type is the same as the category, and it will get rid of those that don't belong. And then the same thing in here of the pie, and then in here at the end, what you are left with is filtered products is leftover pie, basically. Right, so that's what you do. So you, in your logic, you're just going through from the full set of data, and you just kind of taking pieces of it and removing it because you don't want them in there. And then once you go through all the process, then you will get your leftover pie, and you go back to what we already talked about with the print products. So you just basically make sure that they are on the page, right? So that again, you have all the knowledge that you need for this. Is just putting it all the pieces together. And then the printing products, it's just selecting an element and adding a couple of elements into it. I don't know if you have done this already. And as you could see, I struggled with it as well because we use completely different tools these days. We don't do it like manually like this. So I haven't done it forever. But if you have done it already, you know. If you don't know, if you haven't done it yet, it is something that they will definitely show you, and it's quite easy to grasp because you just create new elements and put them on the page basically. And that's it. That's everything that we've done so far. So you know, don't be afraid of it because it really is what you've done so far is just putting everything together, and that's very hard part, right? That's what you find the hardest about programming. Like you have all this knowledge, but how to piece it together is quite difficult. So hopefully, you know, with practice you will get better and better at it. Is there anything else I can answer on the filters?
No.
No. Let me just do a very quickly the search because I don't want to hold you in for too long. But let me just do, so we have the products, and now let's do the search. So in here, let me just put it together with the filters because we don't have time. So we can do select. Again, we can give it name search. And options would be value. Again, let's do default. You don't actually need to put this in there. I think you can just do this, or even don't put the value in there. But I usually put this one in there. So default. And then we can say price. What do they call it in here? Highest first and lowest first. Okay, so price highest first and price lowest first, right? And now, so do you know how to call when you sorting something from low to high or high to low? Do you know how to call that?
No,
So normally we would say that you either doing it in ascending or descending order, right? So descending would mean from highest to low, and from ascending would mean lowest to high. So what we normally use in computers, and you'll see that everywhere with sorting, you would say descending, so highest to lowest, and ascending, highest lowest to highest. You can put whatever values you want in here. It doesn't really matter because the browser is not going to do it for you. You can. This is only for you to decide later in your code what to do, right? So something that you understand, you need to put in here.
It's like an index or kind of a
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. It's like a key for you to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So now we have this search. So hopefully it's on the page. Let me just put h3 in here. Search. Not search, sorry, sort. right? So now we should be able to sort the products. So now we can add this to our collection on form submit. So we can say the search should be something. And the selected search is basically the same thing like this because it's select. So we can say selected search. Oh, sorry. Selected search, and we say this should be a search. Okay, so now let me just log it out in here again. Where is it? Yeah. So if I log out the selected filters now, this search should be there. So you see search descending and search ascending. Let me just move the button as well so it doesn't mess us up. Right, so now we have the search in our actual filters. So after we filter everything out, we can sort it. Right, so in here, you can say, so now we have the filtered products. So now we can sort them. So you can say sorted products. And we basically take the filtered products and we can do sort. Sort is another method on array that we can use. And again, it will basically give you A and B, it will give you like a current and next element. Usually we just call them A and B usually. And you need to give it some kind of comparison to decide if it should be sorted, which way it should be sorted. So in here in your code, you need to decide, okay, do I want to actually sort it somehow or not? That's the first thing. So if we have default sorting, then you should say in here, and I will write ternary, I don't know if you have done it yet or not, but I can say selected filters, if selected filters, search is empty, is empty, then it will be just filtered products. Otherwise, it would be this. So what we're saying in here, let me just put it like this. So this is basically an if statement. Have you done this before, this ternary?
Yeah, it doesn't ring a bell now.
So this is basically just like a one-line way of writing if statements. So I could write the same thing.
You know, the way I learned is this. When I asked a question on Slack and you responded to me and you used that form and I tried it, yeah.
So. Yeah. So it's just like a nice kind of shorthand of writing it. But what you could do is you can say sorted products is this, which is the default, and then you could say if selected search is not empty, then actually sort it somehow, right? So let's just get rid of this. And so now what we're saying is the sorted products are the filtered products. If we actually want to, sort. Did I name it search? Yeah. So if I actually want to sort it somehow, so if it's not empty, the sort is not empty, then sort it, right? So if this is not true, it will just print out filtered products. So now we have selected filter sort, so now we can do filtered products sort A and B. And now we can decide, okay, so we know we want to sort it by price. and we want to either sort this ascending or descending. So we can say, and again I will use ternary because this is easier. So we can say return, and we can say if the if the selected filter sort equals descending order, then we need to say if the B is B price is, and I can't remember if it's more or less, so let's just try it. Otherwise, it will be the other way around. So it will be this. Yeah. Okay. So now we're basically saying if it's descending, sort it one way, otherwise sort it the other way. So this should give us sorted products. So if we look at the products now in here, right? So if I say I want all the gray, let's see what do we have in here? Bed. So we have lots of beds, and do they have something in common? There are two salmon beds. Okay. Well, let's do that. So if we do two salmon beds, right, so we have two salmon beds, and now we can say I want to sort them by highest first, which looks right, and lowest first should change them around, which it doesn't. Let's just see. Oh, of course. Okay, so it is actually sorting. I'm not sure if I do B and A times. Let me just do, because there might be actually plus and minus. Sorry, I don't. Again, I didn't use this clearly. Is my connection? I don't know if it's my connection, but it seems like it's been dropping quite a lot.
Yeah, it's weird.
My guess is that it's you because it's not the three of us. When you go, it's just you.
Yeah. All right, so you need to return. Yeah, so it's minus or plus, really, isn't it? Yeah. Or return -1, okay. So we should be able to just do this or this, I think. Let's see. So salmon bet. So we have salmon bets. And then you say highest first, that's fine, and lowest first. Yeah, so now it's sorting. You can see that they actually change around. So yeah, this is the way to do it, not the actual comparison that I had there before. Yeah, so this is, you see that we did most of the work already with the collecting data and so on. And now it's just adding literally just a little thing in here to sort something. And what I told you in here, that these values, you just choose whatever you want, just so you can actually recognize it and work with it. So that's why in here now we're checking this value, right? So this is really just for you to choose whatever you want. You could also say, value 0 and value 1, and it will be the same thing. You would just have to change it in here. It's just completely up to you what you choose as a def. Yeah, so we did the sort in like 5 minutes, and the rest took much more because obviously it was just much more stuff. Oh, this should actually. Because of the price range. Okay. Oh, yeah, there you go. Right. So that's pretty much it. Do you have any questions about the sorting? What we just did there? I mean, the whole thing that how we added it. No.
I'm good.
Yeah. Well, the next things to do, but we're not going to have time for that today, unfortunately, is to add to the basket where basically there should be a button when you click to it. When you click on it, it should add something to the basket. So all you have to do is when you click on it. So on every product, you would have a button. So say when you print out the product, you would have a button on it, and you could just say, does it have ID? No, it doesn't have ID, but it has name. So you could just say, I want to add this product with a name, and then you would have some kind of object on your global scope, which would be your basket. And you would just basically do basket push product, and you would add it to your basket, something like that. So that's all on the button press. And the last one was carousel, and for carousel, I would just say, I would really just tell you, try to figure it yourself how to do it, and I would encourage you to do it by CSS. And to give you a little bit of a hint, just imagine the carousel as a very, very long element with a small view to the element, and then you just move the element around as you click, right? So don't think about it as a separate images that somehow like one moves to one position and the other one moves to another position. Think about it like a long stripe of images, and the whole stripe kind of moves around as you move the carousel. So that's the best way to think about it. And try to solve it yourself. And there's a lot of things online that you can research about how to do it with CSS the best way.
Is it maybe like iterating over an array where every element of the array is the image?
Well, you don't necessarily have to do that. You don't need to do the iteration. So you can just have literally you can have just like a div, and then you can have one image, and you can have like 5 images, and then all you have to do is, and let me just open some again, my favorite. So what you do is you position the images beside each other. So you would have one image, and then second image, and then third image, and so on. So you would have images like this positioned beside each other. So that's flex, obviously. And then you would have your top element, right? So you would have this, and inside of it, so you would have. So imagine, this probably wasn't the best example, but imagine that you have the whole page or the whole kind of width, one element, and then you would have another element in the middle of it, let's say, in here, right? And then you would have another one that would wrap all the images. Okay, so now you see your green element in this case is just a static kind of view that you have on the page. The blue one is a long strip of images, and what you can do with the blue one is you can kind of move it left and right. So the images stay in the same position as they were. It's just you're taking the whole wrapper and you're kind of moving it around. And as you move it, obviously, if you imagine this whole thing being kind of hidden, right? Oh, that was a bad color to choose. If you imagine this whole thing to be kind of hidden, and only this visible, sorry, this is hidden as well, and only this is visible. So as you move the blue one around, it will show different image depending on where you are at. So you're basically just changing the left and top left position of this whole thing to be somewhere else. That's it. So that's kind of the simplest approach to carousel, really. Just having this whole strip that moves around.
Okay, I'll follow that. Thank you so much. I need to run today.
Oh yeah, me too. Well, I hope it was useful. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.